Alright, come on, own up. Who's used a company card? We've got no money again. Oh, for crying out loud, lads. Look, positives, at least it's not on TikTok yet. Why do I have to see this? Yo guys, it is your boy Niran here, and you are watching FTW. This, of course, the series where I bring to you the best and more frequently the worst of what football has to offer during the last 7 days. What's been kicking off in the world this week? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a new year. 2023 has arrived. Out with the old and in with the new. A new year and new me. Or as a Liverpool fan, probably a slight alteration to that. 1st of January is known for everyone in the UK for going to the gym. And Calvin Phillips has taken Pep's comments a little too literally. I was too drunk on the night, ended up completely blackout like Pep Guardiola's summer transfer policy. Goodness! And Harry Maguire held a house party at his. It got a little bit too loud and police were called. Thankfully, only 3 officers were attacked this time. But the biggest story of this week and of this year so far has been Cristiano Ronaldo's move to Saudi Arabia. Not that he actually knows that.
So for me, it's not the end of my career to come in South Africa. This is why I want to...
Goal for South Africa! Goal for all Africa!
Big Ron is a free agent no more after agreeing to join Saudi Pro League leaders Al-Nassr. There was a dramatic unveiling for world football's leading goalscorer as he was presented in front of Al-Nassr fans. Time to show off your skills in front of your new support. The hype across the country was growing though. Sues were taking over the whole place, and who can blame them? Al-Nassr now have 5 Champions League titles. Unfortunately, someone should tell Ron they didn't actually qualify for the AFC Champions League. But it was a press conference on arrival in Riyadh, and one journalist even hit a Sue in the background. Cristiano Ronaldo, though, was hitting out at the doubters, saying he'd won it all in Europe and that he didn't need to stay there. I don't seem to recall him winning the FA Vase, mate. It is interesting, though, because in that infamous Piers Morgan interview, he said if he was going to Saudi Arabia, he would only be going for the money. Can you blame him, though? Here's Al-Nassr's accountant reading off his wages for this deal.
Over $1.2 billion.
Allegedly, their current number 7, Jalaliddin Masharipov, said no to giving up his number 7 shirt and was promptly released by the club. But if there's one man who doesn't know the meaning of no, it's Ronaldo, to be fair. His move away from Europe, though, has not gone unnoticed by FIFA, who have downgraded him to 88 overall, the lowest that he's had in 12 years. FIFA YouTubers are going to be very underwhelmed by next season.
Oh, let's go! That's class!
A Labara sponsorship. He looks like a corner shop in Camberwell. At least he knows some people at the club. Here he is greeting Vincent Aboubakar after seeing him at the World Cup. Mashallah, brother! And he's going to get another visit from an old friend, Lionel Messi, as Al-Nassr are playing PSG in a friendly very soon. Ron won't be happy with his new manager when Messi makes it 11-1 to the French side.
This guy is not even a coach.
The club's rivals, Al Hilal, have taken a dig at the Portuguese forward as well, putting Lionel Messi shirts in their official club shop. It's a shithousery award for the Saudi Arabian side. But there is an escape for Ron, as due to the same ownership apparently, there is a clause in his deal where if Newcastle get into the Champions League, Ron can go there on loan. Here we have Cristiano arriving at the Toon after months of 6.7s versus Al Shabib.
I've been a fan of this great club all my life, and this is why I love Newcastle United.
Chris Wood's feeling very threatened by this news already.
He's not as good as he thinks he is. He's not. He's got talent, but his big problem is his understanding of the game.
Poor Jacob Murphy's gonna be devastated, realising he'll have been sold by then. Elsewhere though now, in the Premier League, oh, just wheel it back to 2022. You know what comes now. Oh, how delectably repeatable. Liverpool started the new year with a defeat, slumping to a 3-1 loss versus Brentford. Hey, listen, everyone, let's just go back to the World Cup, innit? We've literally lost to a bus stop in Hounslow. An own goal from Kanate, as well as finishes from Johan Wissat and Brian Mbermo, earned the Bees 3 points here, despite Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain respawning to score for Liverpool. Cody Gakpo was not impressed in the crowd. United's still interested. This was a horrible display. They have to have been hungover. Here's exclusive footage of Liverpool players at 3:57 AM after New Year's. Ibrahima Konate was 100% on ketamine for this performance. Here we have him as the ball was played over the top for Brentford's third. We actually conceded 5 as well. VAR was our best friend here, and that gave us hope on Twitter. till 1 minute later. Brentford even had starman Ivan Toney out. He was gassed in the crowd knowing he could actually bet in play now. Here he is seeing his side go 2-0 up, but then realising his bet still needs 3 more corners. Trent was not happy with goal line technology for Brentford's second.
It's not totally over the line. That's not a goal. Look at the white bit. Look at the white bit. That ball, that's a goal.
And Klopp was not happy with their third goal, saying he argued with the refs, but it's as useful as arguing with a microwave. It's a foul, mate. Fucking hell. It went from bad to worse with a hamstring injury for Virgil van Dijk, but at least other patients will be feeling his aura in the hospital. Once again, though, it was a day of what-ifs for Darwin Núñez, who had his shot blocked by Ben Mee here. It is good defending, to be fair, but come on, Darwin.
This motherfucker miss.
No, he's fucking good.
That motherfucker miss, man.
He's good.
In the heat of battle, he missed.
No.
In the heat of controversy, he missed.
Meanwhile, Domino's apologised on Twitter for any pizza deliveries that haven't been completed, because Darwin was the man in charge of them. It's a shithousery award for my least favourite pizza place. That, though, off the back of a Leicester game where they scored all 3 and we won 2-1. 2 spectacular Wout Faes own goals gave Liverpool the win in this one.
Match fixed.
My man was on a hat-trick in his own net. He scored more big chances for us than Darwin Núñez this season. He was rated as player of the match afterwards as well, just to rub salt in the wounds. But here we have him and Ivan Toney getting escorted out of a Premier League match-fixing tribunal. Tottenham are just as useless after their 2-0 loss to Unai Emery's Aston Villa.
I prefer to kill him.
But at least they came back against Crystal Palace. Tottenham were awful in this one. It took Harry Kane 20 minutes to touch the ball. Ryan Hill was attacked for his performance here, but you can't expect much from a Beatles impersonator. But honestly, Hugo Lloris must have been partying into the early hours. He dropped a Douglas Luiz long-range effort for Ollie Watkins to find Emi Buendia. He wasn't paying attention during his goalkeeper coaching session. Meanwhile, Emi Martinez saw this firsthand at the World Cup and he knew what was coming. But Argentinian World Cup winner Cristiano Ronaldo beat him in the final too. He could be found back at a Buenos Aires club not caring about Tottenham at approximately 10:57 p.m. that night. Meanwhile, Tottenham fans were not impressed watching at home.
They're playing like they want to give him the sack. Oh my gosh. No. This is a tribute to grassroots football. He just kicked it off the pitch.
Another North London side dropping points, though, were Arsenal. To be fair, this was off the back of a very impressive 4-2 win against Brighton, but they were held to a 0-0 draw by Newcastle. Now, this was a heated battle, with 9 yellow cards dished out, 2 big shots for penalties waved away, and 1 clash on the touchline. Mikel Arteta versus Eddie Howe is the most cultured scrap ever. They'll have a break for a latte in between. The winner gets a £100 voucher at John Lewis. The handball, I think, was a 50-50 personally, but for me, the tug on Gabriel was an absolute stonewaller. What is VAR doing if not overturning this? Gabriel was clearly displeased on Twitter posting the video. Meanwhile, after constant decisions going against him, Mikel Arteta was even more straight to the point.
If I say what I think, I'm jailed 6 months.
The ball was only in play actively during this one for 51 minutes of the match. We need World Cup injury time back. There was more excitement on Arsenal Fan TV, to be honest with you.
I didn't think this would really happen. And will you marry me? Ashley, will you marry me?
Meanwhile, the Arsenal board aren't too happy with Mikel Arteta trying to claim he's still unbeaten in 2023. But to be honest, it's okay, because Man City also dropped points in the race for the title with a 1-1 draw to Everton at the Etihad. Damari Gray equalised with an absolute screamer. You could argue there's grey skies looming for Man City. Haha, check it. No, but for me too, because I'm getting sacked. Despite a disappointing draw and Erling Haaland increased his tally again, he was, however, getting riled up by Everton defender Ben Godfrey. Meanwhile, here we have Pep Guardiola on his way to a board meeting, trying to explain why he mentored their manager, and then gifted the league leaders Zinchenko and Jesus. Now, we mentioned Everton, but it's not all smiles for the Toffees. In fact, there are quite literally no smiles after a heavy 4-1 defeat to Brighton. But it was at least a good assist from Ghana Gay to the other team.
Very interesting!
One fan had enough and decided to start watching the darts instead. Meanwhile, one who left at 4-0 was taken home by an Uber driver who had also left the match early. Here we have Frank Lampard's review of the goals that went in.
A goal from a corner, allow another average goal, and a fluke goal, then another average goal.
And honestly, he's got to be close to the sack now. These results are shocking. They're firmly down in the relegation zone. And if he wants another Premier League job, he's going to have to scrap with other bosses down at Job Centre. Rumours bizarre that former Burnley boss Sean Dyche is in line to replace Lampard. I'm looking forward to Dwight McNeil and Tarkowski seeing him back at training.
What are you doing here?
Anthony Gordon is not lasting 6 minutes with the guy. Elsewhere, and there was disappointment for Lampard's former team, Chelsea, with a 1-1 draw to Forest. The result means that Chelsea haven't won in the league since mid-October versus Bournemouth. These lot were definitely out at Nottingham Hooters the night before. They were so poor. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's trying to get let back into the Emirates. Meanwhile, Serge Aurier's goal was getting described by Thiago Silva.
The nigga swung his body to the side.
Graham Potter is not having the impact that he hoped for. He's not doing Harry proud right now. And Todd Bowley's going to be fuming, realising that he can't actually cast magic spells. And for my next trick, I'm making good football disappear. Chelsea are looking to improve though, with a €130 million bid for Enzo Fernandez. 130 million.
$200 billion.
This is huge money. He will improve the side, but I'm concerned about what he'll think after that Forest performance. Another World Cup winner is Alexis McAllister, who is now back at Brighton. Brighton's cleaners are going to be so fed up seeing all this confetti. Japanese fans know they've got to intervene and clean up again.
You guys are in a crisis. I'm on my way.
Meanwhile, we've got a quote here from Barber saying that Alexis McAllister's gonna stay. Hey, do you think you're gonna leave, bro? I don't know, man. I don't think so. I can confirm he is staying. Tributes are continuing to flood in for Pele, who passed away last week. One linesman even wore boots dedicated to him. Here we have him after he tried to recreate a rainbow flick that Pele had done in 1963. United have been excellent this week and are now within 1 point of Newcastle in third. They did that with wins over Wolves 1-0 and a 3-0 win over Bournemouth. Marcus Rashford was given a reprimand for oversleeping. Thankfully, he woke up in time to win the game versus Wolves. I mentioned United are 1 point off Newcastle. They're 1 point off Man City too.
Man United are back.
Manager Erik ten Hag is looking out for youth as well. He's been watching under-9 United matches for new prospects.
Dodgy, mate.
Here is Eric when it gets to 4:30 PM and the under-8s kick off.
Oh my gosh, students!
Someone's got to stop this guy when he's hanging around outside the ground.
Now I'm panicking. Don't panic. No, I am, because I'm going to lose my job.
What I will say is I can guarantee one of those young players is better than Scott McTominay. Elsewhere at United, and Lisandro Martinez has returned from the World Cup with a World Cup winners medal. Finally, some silverware at Old Trafford. But listen, lads, there's only so long I can keep making that joke at this rate. Brazilian winger Anthony held a tribute under his United shirt for Pele. He knew he wasn't going to score, so he had to show it off at kickoff. Meanwhile, if Harry Maguire doesn't get any more game time soon, he's going to be doing a Piers Morgan interview as well. And then they said, you're built like a fridge. Now, I don't think that. There's the revelation that 6'6" Newcastle defender Dan Burn has the smallest car you could possibly imagine. Speaking of Newcastle, in their game against Leeds, we've got some perfectly timed housery here from Tyler Adams. And on the topic of Leeds, they've made yet another signing from Austrian side Red Bull Salzburg. Jesse Marsch's former team are not taking it well on Twitter. On Twitter, and one fan accidentally paid his tributes to the Romford Pele, aka Ray Parlour. Ray saw the funny side of it, but this fan must have been so confused.
I can't believe it. Someone said it was dead.
And finally on Sky Sports, they introduced a new feature allowing kids to commentate over Liverpool's game against Brentford. I'm not gonna lie, they did a really good job, but honestly I was fed up with the lack of professionalism. So I turned off Jamie Carragher and went onto the Juniors channel. Up in Scotland, and we had the Old Firm derby for the first time in about 4 days, seeing as this happens all the time. After one Celtic strike, and it's fair to say this Rangers fan wasn't too pleased in the crowd. Meanwhile, Celtic's Greg Taylor had some choice words for Alfredo Morelos. Now, in France, and Lionel Messi is back at PSG from the World Cup too. He arrived with a guard of honour from his French teammates. They all seemed very happy, apart from Kylian Mbappe's younger brother. And Leo's not going to be impressed when he sees the Lens scoreline. Yeah, Lens won their top-of-the-table clash against a very poor PSG side 3-1. I want these lot to win the league. Serious underdog story. Their celebrations were brilliant. Oh, not this guy again. But honestly, this was so poor from PSG, who got live scenes of Sergio Ramos pretending to read his boss's tactics before kickoff. Fresnel Kimpembe wasn't happy with what he saw and left. Honestly, this Don behind him's got the right idea. There's also the development that Lens midfielder Salis Abdul Samed's mum only watched him play football for the first time at the World Cup. PSG might be disappointed, but Argentinian fans are still in love with Lionel Messi. Apparently, 1 in 70 children in his local area of Santa Fe have been named after him in the last month after his World Cup victory. At Marseille versus Montpellier, and Nuno Tavares was sent off. He got grief from Montpellier fans, but decided to remind them what the scoreline was. Meanwhile, Dimitri Payet managed to provide a late Christmas present for Marseille fans, and even whipped out a Christmas hat to celebrate. In Italy, and on the festive theme, Napoli had a new Christmas shirt out. I sincerely hope they do one for every single holiday. Meanwhile, Jose Mourinho is the master of judging this press conference. Elsewhere in Barcelona faced off against Espanyol in La Liga, and this derby was a heated affair, with 2 red cards and a ridiculous amount of yellows from the referee, who gave loads of yellows for Argentina versus the Netherlands. I mean, at least he's consistent. Speaking of Barca, and they required an extra time winner to advance 4-3 in the Copa del Rey against a side in the relegation zone in the 3rd tier. Can't lie, lads, Xavi might be a fraud. Elsewhere in the Copa del Rey, and it was even more disappointment for Eden Hazard, whose stats for this one left a lot to be desired. There is at least one statistic in his favour though. And Atletico versus Elche, and Alvaro Morata was injured scoring this goal, but thankfully there was a miraculous recovery. At Real Madrid, and Antonio Rudiger is now clinically bald. Meanwhile, there's the heartwarming story of Lucas Perez, who was returned to Deportivo La Coruña to try and help them out of the 3rd division. He's not only dropped down 2 tiers in the Spanish league system to do it, but he also paid 500,000 euros of his own money to make it happen. Meanwhile, in Japan, and what about this for a fancy dress costume? But these next balls are going to be firmly over the line, because it's time for goals of the week. Over at Strasbourg, and we've got an absolute rocket coming in Ligue 1 from Ismail Doucouré. That's an example of power, a thunderbolt. But an even more measured and technical finish comes in here from AFC Dorchester, with this ball having enough swaz on it to send Jeremy Lynch back to Arsenal. And finally, over in Tanzania, take a bow, Kenyan footballer Kenneth Maguna with yet another rocket this week. Now, over in America, and the US men's national team is in crisis. During the World Cup, and USA's manager Greg Berhalter was called out for not using youngster Gio Reyna more and giving him more minutes. Now, in the wake of that, Claudio Reyna, who also used to be a footballer and is Gio's dad, and his wife have conspired together to release information and blackmail Berhalter, allegedly, over an incident in 1991 where Greg kicked his now wife outside of a restaurant. This story is absolutely ridiculous. Harry Maguire's dad would have had it locked and loaded for Eric Ten Hag if this happened at United. Hello all, and welcome to The Beautiful Game, the segment where we take a look at the poetic and brilliant side of the game that we love. We are back by popular demand for yet more glorious beauty.
He's got Jordan Williams wide. That's poor from Kunde. And Bob Varson doesn't know where the ball is, and that is a horrendous goal to concede.
And that concludes The Beautiful Game. Now, back up in Scotland, and VAR over in Aberdeen is literally happening in the back of a van. Fucking hell, Connor, slow down over the speed bump. In Japan, and we've got an interesting technique for a free kick here, involving 3 takers playing Ring-a-Ring-a Roses, then giving the ball away. We've got even more creative set pieces going on here, where at a corner, everybody crouches down at the near post, and then you give the ball away. Meanwhile, Ecuadorian striker Ener Valencia's Christmas photo was very interesting indeed, and if they keep those masks on, the family Christmas monopoly is going to get a little bit confusing. I mean, that's just purely disrespectful, innit? Closer to home and down in the Championship at Blackburn. Meanwhile, staying at Blackburn, but a different game against Middlesbrough, and we've got one of their players getting sent off for playing head basketball with a Middlesbrough opponent. Now, over in Saudi Arabia and at Al Hilal, Saleh Al Shehri, who of course scored for Saudi Arabia at the World Cup, didn't have such a great day this week. In Japan, and the weird and wacky set pieces just keep on coming, we've got an indirect free kick here being taken in the box. Many step overs is a good way to distract the opponent, to be fair, but they also gave the ball away. In Brazil, and in a game between Retro and America RN. This friendly didn't seem all that friendly to me because there was a fight and then one player getting chased all the way over to the police during it. Now though, we move on to Indonesia, who have had yet another sensational week. Usually it's the footballers being totally incompetent in this league, but officials have been making headlines too, and one of them here clearly doesn't understand how a subboard works. Meanwhile, when the team bus isn't working and any other means of transport aren't available, just cram everyone in the boot of a hatchback. In Tanzania now, and we've got someone stepping up for a free kick. It's gonna need to be a sensational strike to go in from here. Or that goalkeeper, or him. And staying in Tanzania, we've got yet more poor defensive play, or incredible depending on how you look at it, because this is a sensational header from almost outside of the area. Over in the high school leagues of Japan, and Rory Delap's clearly had a nationality change. In Israel, and a contender for Miss of the Week comes from Richard Boateng. In Bhutan, and I don't know what is going on in their Premier Division, but there's consistently weird scorelines. A 7-6 being recorded this time. And over in Wales at Pontypridd, and how about a steaming hot serving of poppadom hands? Now that it's time for Still 0-0, and you guys know the score by now, this is a segment of the show where I bring to you the best of Sunday League and amateur football. Now this time round, we've got a Sunday League side that's made a new signing. And realistically, you've got to rinse him the first time he comes to the dressing room. So these lot have lied and told the new signing that he needs to wear a suit for his first day of pre-season, and the reaction is priceless. On to the weird stuff though now. Over in France, and La Tamponnais from Réunion in the Indian Ocean are going to be travelling to a 4th tier side in the mainland for their French Cup tie on Saturday. They're the last overseas team left in the Coupe de France, and as you can see, it's going to be a little bit of a long away day. Over in Costa Rica, and how about these kit sponsors from San Carlos? I can only imagine these lot are in serious financial trouble. There's a story of 21 Cameroonian players who are going to miss out on AFCON Under-17 qualification because they failed an age test. Out of the 30 players selected to represent the nation at the African Cup of Nations, 21 of them failed this test. They take an MRI scan basically of a wrist in order to analyze the maturity of the bones, and only 9 of them actually passed. And finally, in more wholesome news, former Brighton midfielder Enoch Mwepu announced that he was going to have to retire from football at just the age of 24 earlier in 2022. Obviously, I'm sure that was pretty gutting and devastating news, not only for him, but for Brighton fans who had enjoyed watching him play. Well, he's now been given a role at the club as a youth academy coach to ensure that he will have a pivotal role in shaping the players of the future to come out of the club, which I think is extremely wholesome, and it's great to see that he's still involved in the beautiful game. That, though, is going to wrap up football this week, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then feel free to slap a like on the video, and of course, subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at the official FNG on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.